Hi folks, this is Vicki at patternprincess.com. Today I'm going to show you finally the sixth blanket in the series of 6 that I have done in a granny square baby blanket. And they could really again be lap blankets, they could be just a throw on the couch, but they certainly could be a baby blanket. And this one here is just like the other ones, made of 20 squares. It's 10 of each of these squares. This one here is made from, I've used all of Red Heart yarn on all of all of the blankets actually. A couple of years ago, actually, I was laid up with some surgery and I just kept making granny squares. I wasn't sure what I was going to make, and so that I've made 6 blankets out of them. So this one here is dusty gray. So there's 4 rounds of the dusty gray. This is just a normal granny square, classic granny square. Then I did 2 rounds of the charcoal gray. I used the invisible join I just sewed them together. And then here, this is called petal pink, Red Heart yarn. And then this is the dusty gray again. So the whole thing, it's 4 squares wide and 5 squares long. Again, a total of 20 squares. So today I do have videos on the website. I will have links to the free pattern on the website in the description. And you can certainly buy the pattern without, ads on the website. If you wanted to, you could certainly, I have them listed in my Etsy shop as well. You can find them on Pattern Princess Etsy. So this here, what I'm going to show you today, so I have other links in the free tutorial on how to do the crochet squares, how to change the color. I'll be changing color today as well as we go around, and then also how to join the squares. So today we're going to focus on the border, and I've done a different border on each blanket to make it look different. This one here starts with a single crochet in the petal pink, then we move to the dusty gray, and we do a row of double crochet, and then we do shell stitches, and then we do some 3 sets of double crochet, and then we end up with a picot stitch. And it's a little bit ruffly, as you can tell, with the pink. The pink is a little bit ruffly, not bad, not just a smidge. Here's a little bit more. So I've called this Blushing Ruffle Granny Square Blanket. It just seemed appropriate. So I'm going to show you how to do the border, and I'll have all of the links and such to get to the free pattern tutorial on the website. I'm going to start with this crochet square. This one here was the petal pink and then the dusty gray. And the very first round is done in petal pink. Now, I'm going to be using, just as I have in the last ones, I'm going to be using this one granny square, this to represent the whole blanket. So pretend as I'm working on this that we're actually working on after all of the squares have been sewn together, and we're going to work around the whole blanket. So imagine that this is a blanket. But I thought that this would be a good way to show you the stitches. And really the first couple rows are just really simple stitches. The very first row, I'm just going to put my fingers in the yarn here, bring them around, make my slip knot on my hook. And then I'm going to pick a spot, and actually as I go around and continue to join yarn colors in different areas, I'll usually pick a different area of the blanket to join it, or the square, just because then you won't get as much bulk in an area where you're joining and weaving in the ends. So I'm just going to start like right here. I'll just in the chain 1 space, and I'm just going to, actually I'm not going to do that. Now that I'm going to say that, I'm going to just start in a stitch because we're going to be working in each stitch. So I'll join my yarn. Okay, here we go. So the very first thing that we're going to do is we're going to just single crochet all the way around, but we're going to chain 1, and that's going to count as our first single crochet. Then in each stitch, and each stitch around, I'm not going to do anything different in the corners on this particular one, but in each stitch around, there's something on here, it's bothering me. There we go. We are going to do a single crochet. So it makes it nice and easy to do. You don't have to count. All you got to do is just make sure that you keep getting your stitches in the through both loops. It gets a little bit harder. I'm going to show you when on the blanket. Hang on. It gets a little bit harder when you do the 3 chain stitches from the previous row in the corner. I thought that this, let me see, the dark might be too hard to see. But you don't want to like crochet around it. You actually want to kind of like go in the 2 loops, or at least in the back loop, because then it's going to show the yarn from the previous row yet. And I wanted to do that on purpose. So here, see that I went through the 2 loops and there's still some of the yarn showing on the bottom here in that corner. So we don't want to crochet around. Remember when I was starting that one, I said, oh, you insert your hook here. It's like, oh no, I had to think about it for a second. So if you are unable, if your stitches are too tight and you're not able to get through both of these loops like this, it's okay. Just turn it a little bit and go into that back loop and just do a single crochet, because then you can still see it, right? And then you just move on. Then it becomes easier again to do your single crochets. And we're just going to single crochet again in each stitch all the way around. And where there's the chain stitch in between, I made sure that I went through the 2 loops again, or at least that back loop, so that you could see the gray yarn peeking out underneath it, because that's just one of the elements I think that adds to the prettiness of the crochet border. And it's not too hard to go through 2 loops, unless you have a really tight, a tendency to crochet really tight, then it would be. Then I would just, again, go through that back loop at least, just to have some of that peeking through. And all you do is continue to do the single crochet in every single stitch. And I'm going to continue working this. What we're going to do is we are going to end with a slip stitch into that initial chain 1 space. You see how nice this is looking already? And because we have the previous row chain 3, it's laying nice in the corner yet, okay? So we're going to end up right back here, and we're going to do a slip stitch into this initial chain space that counted as a single crochet right here. And then we're going to, for the second row, we're going to change to gray. Okay, round 1 is complete. And we're done with the petal pink right now. We've done a single crochet in each stitch around. And again, you notice how you can see that dusty gray peeking through on the edges. That's what we want. That just adds another little element, even in the chain 1 spaces. That way, because oftentimes when I do a single crochet row, I just go through that. You know, you just put your yarn hook, your crochet hook in here and yarn over and complete your stitch. But I wanted to make sure that we could see some of that peeking through, because I just think that it makes it so much prettier. And let me show you on the blanket one more time how that looked. See that? Oops, let's get it on the right side. See that? Isn't that pretty? You can see that peeking through. Just a very pretty stitch. So now we're going to switch and we're going to go to our dusty gray. And what I like to do is, since I ended here and started here, I like to go into a different spot, so you just don't have as much bulk as you're weaving in. So I'll start over here. So what we're going to do is our next row is just a double crochet in every single stitch. So we can do that, right? So I'm going to go through, put my yarn through here, join my yarn, bring it through here. If I can, it's just being a little bugger right now. There we go. And then I'll tighten this up a little bit later when I get back over to it. So 1, 2, 3. That counts as my first double crochet. Then we yarn over and we go into our next stitch, and I just do a double crochet. I bring in the yarn through 2 loops and the yarn through 2 loops. Yarn over, double crochet. Yarn over, go through the stitch, yarn over, go through 2 loops and 2 more loops. And that's all I'm going to do with this entire row, is continue. And even around the corners, at this moment, I'm not going to do anything different around the corners, because the corners will still lay nice and flat, as they did on the other one, my other bigger blanket. So I'm going to go around the corner just so you can see how this will look. And then when we end this row, we are going to end with a slip stitch into that top chain 3 stitch of the initial chain 3, and then that'll complete this round. But we're not going to snip off the gray, because we're going to continue to use this gray in the next rounds. And with our last round we do, we'll be back in the pink again. So here we go. This is, it's a little bit, but when you get the other rows on, it'll be fine. So right here, we're gonna end it with a stitch right here, and then we're gonna slip stitch right back into the top chain of there. Okay, so continue working a double crochet in every stitch around in the gray. Okay, we have round 1 and round 2 done. Round 1 was our single crochet. Round 2 is using the dusty gray. It's doing a double crochet in every single crochet space. Now in round 3, we're going to continue with our dusty gray. Okay, so beginning right where we stopped, we're going to chain 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. That counts as a double crochet and a chain 1. We're going to yarn over, and right back on our same space, we're going to do a double crochet. Okay, then we're going to skip 2. Okay, so we're right here. We're going to, oh, you know what? I'm looking at this. I did not go right back on that same space. Let me do that again. Let me go right back on that same space. Here we go. So now we're going to skip 2. 1, 2. In the next space, do this right. We're going to yarn over, we're going to do a double crochet, chain 2, and double crochet in the same space. Okay. Now in the corner, when we get to the corners, I should have maybe started back a little bit further, but when we get to the corners, remember there's the 3 chain spaces that we have. Instead of skipping 2, as soon as I hit the, and it doesn't matter, you're going to be on one side you'll have maybe 2 and the other side 1. This is just to ease around the corner. So in the corners, I'm going to yarn over, and I'm just going to skip 1. So I'm going to skip 1, and then this next one I'm going to do the double crochet, chain 1, and double crochet back on that same stitch. And I'm going to do that skipping 1 and doing this 3 times. So that's 1. We're going to skip 1, and then we're going to do in the next stitch double crochet, chain 1, double crochet. And then when we get to the next one here, we're going to skip 1, and we're going to do one more time where we do the double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, but we've only skipped 1. So you see that we only skipped 1 3 different times. Now we're around the corner, okay? We're around the corner. So now we're gonna skip 2 because we're on this, oh my goodness, on the sides. So we're gonna skip 2, 1, 2, and then the next one, we're going to do a double crochet, chain 1, double crochet. And then skip 2, and then double crochet, chain 1, double crochet in the same stitch. Okay, do you see that? And then we're going to repeat this around, and in each corner again, in fact I should probably go to the next corner and you'll see what I do here. Then 1, 2, it won't take very long. And then we'll see how we can ease it around the corner again. And again, 1, 2, because sometimes you'll say, oh gosh, maybe I, needed to be closer to the corner. It's okay. This is really just to ease it around. It won't be noticeable if you might be off a stitch. There we go. And then skip 2, 1, chain 1. Okay. So now we're getting close to that corner again, and I'm going to skip 2 yet. Because as I'm looking, it's like I'm not quite into that corner bend yet. It's kind of more of an eye, a gauge. Because like I said, if I skip 2 and I'm going to be over here, well, that's just about perfect. And what if I skip 1 and it's more over here? That's okay. It's not noticeable in this pattern at all. It's very forgiving. So we're going to skip 2, 1, 2. In this one, we're going to do our double crochet, chain 1, double crochet. And then we're going to skip 1, and then do our double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, skip 1, double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, skip 1, double crochet, chain 1, double crochet. Then we're going to skip 2 because we've done it 3 times, remember, right? 1 and then 2, and I'll do one more and then I'll lay this flat and show you. 1, 2. Okay, so let's lay this flat. So you see how it's laying nice and it's forming around the corner? And we just did a skip. We skipped this one, and this one to bring that around the corner. So that's right here. So here's our chain 3, and right. So it would have probably been nicer actually to start it right here on this one. You know, a little bit closer, but it works just fine. So we had this one here that we stopped. We did our skipped 1 stitch, and then we did our double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, skipped 1 stitch, and then we did again here and skipped 1 stitch, and then our double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, and then we went on with our skipping 2. So that's how that corner looks. This is how our first corner looks. See, that looks nice. And then when we do the next row, we're going to be going in the same pattern that we had here. We're going to do another shell stitch, a V-stitch actually. So I'll work this around. We're going to end with a slip stitch into the 3rd chain of the initial chain 4. We'll slip stitch right into this stitch right here, okay? So that we still have that chain stitch in the middle. That's a stitch that I'll be slipping into, okay? Okay, so we have finished round 3. So I'm just going to recap what we did here again. So we did on our sides, we did our double crochet, chain 1, double crochet in the same stitch. We skipped 2. And then we did our double crochet, chain 1, double crochet in the same stitch, skip 2. We did it all the way on the side, okay? Then in the corners, since there's 3 chain spaces, I kind of tried to account for the 3 chain by just skipping 1. So on one of your stitches where you end, kind of just before the corners, we did the double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, and then I skipped 1. And then I double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, skip another. Double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, skip another. So we do 3 times where we just skip 1 stitch, and that eases it around that corner. And then we go back to the double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, and skipping 2 on the sides, okay? So that each corner I've only skipped 1 3 different times, okay? And it really helps ease this around the edges. Also on this particular one, it came out right on my blanket, but as I was working just with this square here, I had 3 stitches left. So what I did here is I just skipped 1. I did my V-stitch, my double crochet, chain 1, double crochet in the same stitch, that was a V-stitch, and just skipped 1, and then I joined my slip stitch into that 3rd stitch of the initial chain 4. So it's not really noticeable here. I don't think that anybody's going to know what we did, so we're just going to keep on going. I'm going to make this into, like I said, on the other ones too, is the other samples that I did. I'm going to make it into a lovey. So what we're going to do, so this here is, we actually ended on top of the double crochet. I'm going to insert my hook into that chain 1 space and just yarn over. So now I slip stitched into the chain 1 space, okay? So with the next one, we're going to do, now the rest of it, we're going to do just like we did. So we're going to do chain 3, which counts as a double crochet, chain 1 more, which is going to count as that chain 1 that chain space in between, yarn over and go right back into that chain 1 space, and now we're going to do a double crochet. So we're doing another V-stitch. Now we just hop over, though, it's really easy, we just hop over to the next chain space, and we're going to do a double crochet, chain 1, double crochet. And then we're going to, even around the corners, that's all we're going to do. We're just going to keep hopping over, even in the corners, and doing our double crochet, chain 1, double crochet. But I would say don't make it tight. Like, don't have tight stitches, because that'll make it curl. So just kind of a normal, looser crochet stitch is good here. And so a double crochet, chain 1, double crochet. Just keep hopping over to that chain 1 space. This goes really fast. There's not a whole lot of counting really to do, except just to remember to do the 2 double crochets and the chain 1 space, but you just keep hopping over to the hole, and it makes it very easy to do. What we're going to do then, when I get to the other side, I'm going to join. So here's how this is starting to look. So now we're starting to get the height onto our little lacy border. So I'm going to come back over here, and I'm going to end up with my double crochet, chain 1, double crochet right inside of here. And then I'm just going to join into that 3rd stitch right here with a slip stitch, because then I'll still have that chain 1 space. So I'm going to continue on, and I'm going to meet you right back over here, okay? Okay, we are going on to row 4. So this one's all done. Round 4, we're going to continue working in our dusty gray. So I've ended with my slip stitch here, and I had a long loop on here just so I didn't lose my yarn. So what we're going to do is we're going to slip stitch over into the chain 1 space again. I'm going to bring my yarn through here. Okay, we're in the chain 1 space. Then I'm going to do chain 3. 1, 2, 3. That again counts as a double crochet. Yarn over and do 2 more double crochet right here. And then this time we're going to chain 1. We're going to skip these 2 double crochet. We're going to go into the center there, the chain 1 space, and do 3 double crochet again. 2, 3, chain 1. That chaining 1 gives, and then we're going to go right back over into our chain space and do 3 double crochet. That is our pattern all the way around. And the chaining 1 is going to start to give a little bit more ease as we work around the corners again. So it's kind of it helps it start to lay flat again a little bit. And then we just have one more round after this, and that one's going to be in the petal pink. And that one's going to have some picot stitches. What this round here does is it sets it up to have a nice little base. See how that lays nice and flat? This side's a little bit curly. See, it wants to curl up a little bit, just a smidge, not much. But then when you add on this and it eases it around, whew, flat again. so when you get this row done, before you add on the fourth round here, don't worry, it's going to be a little bit where it wants to curl. You add on this row and it just takes care of it. So don't be worried. So I'm going to continue to do this. I'm going to end with a chain 1 and a slip stitch back into that third chain of the initial chain 3. And then we will be done with our dusty gray yarn. So all you're going to do is keep going into that chain 1 space and doing your 3 double crochets, chain 1, 3 double crochet, chain 1, 3 double crochet, chain 1. And then, so we're going to do all the way around. As I said, we're going to end here with our 3 double crochet. We're going to do a chain 1, and then I'm going to slip stitch right into this stitch right here. Okay? And I'll meet you right back here when we are done with our gray, and I'll have my pink joined. Okay, we have just finished round 5. See how this is laying really nice and flat now? So that last row, the row 5, really straightened all of this out. And instead of giving it more of a square edge look, it gives it that more of a round look. I was just going for a different look with this crochet pattern. So the last row we're going to do, and let me remind you what this looks like, is our picot stitch row. And this one will get a little bit roughly with this stitch. So what we do is I actually join my yarn right in the stitch, and don't, when you, again, just as we did in the last one, don't go through that chain 1 space. Go through the stitch so that some of the gray is showing. So if you start in the chain 1 stitch space, then you just do a chain 1 for the initial stitch, but then a single crochet, and then at next stitch we're going to do a picot. So what I've been doing is, and normally a picot stitch is 3 stitches. Normally you'll do your single crochet, chain 3, and then single crochet, or you could slip stitch back in. But the way that I did this, I wanted to make this a little bit more pronounced. I did a single crochet and then a chain 4, and then a single crochet right back in the same spot. And that's what gives a little bit of that ruffly appearance, because it kind of adds a little stitch right there. And then you just go ahead and crochet over the next 3 stitches. So the double crochet, you crochet over that, you crochet over in the single crochet, or I should say the chain 1 space, and then the double crochet, and then we do the next stitch over is a picot. It's a single crochet, chain 4, and single crochet back in that same spot. Isn't that pretty? And then around the corners, it's the same thing. We just continue right around the corners with the same thing. So we don't do anything different around. Once we start, we finish all the way around doing that stitch. So let's get started. It's really a pretty little stitch. I just love it. I'm going to start in a different spot here. I'll start over here, but I'm going to start in that chain space. So I'm going to go through those 2 loops. Do you see that? I'm going to go through the 2 loops. I'm going to keep that one peeking out underneath. Can you see that one peeking out underneath yet? I've gone through those loops. So I'm going to bring my yarn, my hook through, and bring my yarn through. Here we go. And bring it through my loop. I will be weaving in my ends and tightening up this part here off camera. I'll get that all done. So what we're going to do is, in this initial one, we're going to do a chain 1. That counts as our first single crochet. Okay. Then we're going to do a single crochet in the next stitch. And we're already over the top double crochet our very initial, or I should say, of those 3 double crochets. And that's what that row was for, is to set up a nice little foundation for this picot stitch. So what I'm going to do is insert my hook, do a single crochet, and then I'm going to chain 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then right back in that same stitch, do another single crochet. And it makes a nice little stitch. Then I'm going to go ahead and keep going and do a single crochet until I get to the next stitch. There's 1, and it should be 3 in between. There we go. I was able to get in the in those top 2 loops there. It's a little bit hard in that chain space, but that's okay. So now I've done 3 single crochet. We're back to the middle again of the middle stitch of the 3 double crochets. So I'm going to single crochet, chain 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then right back to that same stitch, do a single crochet. Like I said, a lot of times folks will end up doing a slip stitch back in, but I want a little bit more definition, so I did the single crochet. And then 3 single crochet in the next, a single crochet in the next 3 spots. And then here we go. And then it's picot time again. Here we go. Single crochet, 1, 2, 3, 4, and single crochet. Isn't it simple? And then we do our 3 single crochet, and I'm going to stop in just a second so you can see how they're starting to look. But this really just adds such a cute little embellishment to the end of this blanket. I absolutely love it. It makes it a little bit ruffly, a little bit frilly, and certainly girly. So there we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. But it's just such a nice, easy pattern to work, and has such a pretty little border. You see how that's starting to look? Isn't that cute on the end of it? And how they just pop up, and they're very easy to achieve. So I'm going to come back here, and I'm going to end with a slip stitch right back into that chain 1 space, and then I'm going to go ahead and weave in all of my yarn ends that are on the back here, and I'll have a nice pretty little lovey for somebody. Whoever gets this blanket is going to have a really cute little lovey to go along with it. I thank you for watching. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe to stay up to date on any videos that I post. And then also make sure that you stop by the website. If you're looking for the written pattern, that's certainly available there for free for you. So please make sure you stop and check out the pattern and make some for yourself and some to give to some other deserving soul. Take care and have a wonderful day.